Hi, everyone. Welcome to the sixth installment of the Open edX conference, Open edX 2019. My name is Marco Morales. I'll be here sort of shepherding the proceedings for the morning. But first, what I want to do is introduce Dr. Vince Kellen, who's the Chief Information Officer for the University of California, San Diego, as well as a member of the Chancellor's Cabinet, Vice Chancellor, and a member of the Chief Financial Officer's Senior Management Team. So give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for coming to San Diego. We're glad to host you here. So you're seeing a fairly typical day in the late, winter, early spring. Well, it's kind of like the middle of the summer, kind of like the fall. But it brings back memories of a trip that I had in London years ago. I was there for 10 days flying between two other projects that I was working on. And it happened to be in the middle of the summer, and it was absolutely wonderful weather in London. Sunny as could be, not a cloud in the sky. Wimbledon finished in record time. There were no rain delays whatsoever. The weathermen on the shows were getting a little bit exasperated, and towards the end of that run, they're saying, "Don't worry, Londoners. The weather will return to normal. Rain is coming. Don't worry, sun is coming," when you see the clouds out here. So again, welcome here to San Diego. You see a lot of construction going on, obviously, here in San Diego, as in much of California. Things are, from an education standpoint, proceeding with the pace. And like many other universities, we're trying to focus hard on how to take advantage of digital technology, online learning, distance learning, learning at a distance, etc. So we're glad and delighted to be hosting here. So again, welcome, and hope you have a great rest of the day today and tomorrow as you go through the rest of the conference. So at this point, I'd like to introduce the CEO of edX, and you guys probably know him, fantastic gentleman, force of nature, Anant Argawal. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. And thank you, UC San Diego, for hosting us. And you guys have been just absolutely fantastic hosts. Before I talk about the future learner, let me give you a quick update on where we are and our strategy, and then talk about why we are doing all of this in the first place. So again, let me start by thanking our hosts, UC San Diego. And due to your efforts and the efforts of this community, I believe this is the largest Open edX ever. So let's give all of yourselves and UC San Diego a big hand. So first, some quick stats in terms of an update. Again, through your efforts, the edX platform is getting bigger and reaching more places around the world. There's 25,000 courses on the Open edX platform around the world, including edX and many of the other platforms. 2,400 instances of the platform, and collectively 45 million learners. And so 20 million of them are on edX, 25 million of them on Open edX instances. And I can promise you that that number is, I think, much smaller than it really is. And one of these days we'll find a way of measuring the true reach and impact. A lot of people ask me, what is edX's strategy going ahead? What are you focused on? So let me give you just some quick insights into how we are thinking, so that as you make your own plans and build your own directions, you can see where our thinking and thrust is going to be. So there's three lines of business, if you will, that are very important to edX. One is our B2C business, where as a platform, millions of learners from all over the world come in and take the courses. They find these through search and other means. That's our B2C business. And as part of that, we have a number of credentials. The MicroMasters credential is one example. We are totally behind it. It's a very important credential, and it is something that we are working towards really establishing as a very recognized credential by employers and learners all over the world. Professional certificates and individual courses are also programs that we have on edX. The second line of business is B2B, and that is edX for Business, where we work with, we directly sell into enterprises, where they can have their employees come in and take the courses en masse on the edX platform, for example. And so here, a lot of our development and thinking goes into what are the needs of enterprises, not just in the content sense, but also from a platform standpoint. So this is another a second important line of business for us. And third, we piloted a online degree program with Georgia Tech starting about 2.25 years ago. And we formally entered this business in a big way last year. About, I would say, what is it, around summer of last year, we launched 10 online, fully online master's degrees. And in doing so, we launched this third line of business. I know that over the years, I've talked to many of you, where many of you are already hosting online degrees yourselves. And so here, edX is doing that now. And what that means is that there's going to be a continued and increased focus on the kinds of rich, engaging experiences, the ability to deliver engaging content, rigorous content, and also more and more of a thrust as we go ahead into the future about how, how this integrates into the needs of campuses, for example. So that's a third thrust. In doing so, we're doing it a bit differently from many of the other OPMs. OPMs are platforms that work with universities. These are program management, online program management companies that work with universities to launch their programs. In our case, we've kind of created a new category called Lean OPM, where a lot of the capacity is built by the universities, and edX does a smaller piece of the whole soup to nuts of doing master's degrees and taking care of students. And in return, the universities maintain more control. It's much more capacity building for them. And also, the revenue share is much more in their favor compared to some of the other, generally, to my knowledge, edX is the only nonprofit OPM in the market today. OK. Even as we launch these three lines of businesses, there's a lot of connection between these lines of businesses and a lot of innovation, innovation that we continue to foster. I just want to highlight one example innovation. At various points in time, you've heard me talk about stacking credentials and so on. And one of the more radical things that's happening today is the stacked masters in supply chain management that Arizona State launched. So there, students would complete a MicroMasters in supply chain management, and that's one piece. And then, if they want to, they would continue on following an applications process into an online master's in supply chain management from ASU's business school and completely on edX. So you can see the stacking happening here, and also multi-institutional stacking that is happening. So it's a very exciting innovation, and I just wanted to highlight some of the connections between the multiple lines of businesses. In all of this, you all play an extremely important part. We want to build the world's best learning platform. With 45 million learners, it's arguably the world's biggest learning platform today. But together, we also want to build the most engaging and the best learning platform around the world. And in doing so, the Open edX community is very important. We want to get your contributions. We want to get the community contributions. At the same time, we also want to create much better engagement and collaboration within the community. And of course, edX is also part of the community. And so both, which is community contributions and also collaborations within the community. So this is extremely, extremely important for us. So with that, let me talk about why we are doing all of this to begin with. And oftentimes we spend a lot of time thinking about the platform and the metrics and content and the supply side of things. But sometimes, it's worthwhile pausing to see who is the learner? Why are we doing this? And so in the rest of the presentation, let me talk about who we are seeing as the future learner. Okay, who is the future learner? What are they looking for? And let me promise you, they're not the learners they're not the same kind of learners as, for example, I was when I went to college or finished high school, 40 years ago. So the learners have many characteristics, and so let's start with the first one. The first category are learners that are looking to upskill. Okay, they're in a job, and they want to stay relevant, and they want to upskill. And so just to give you an example of why upskilling is so important, edX conducted a survey, and one of the interesting results was that 53% of the respondents, and not just edX learners, this was a broad survey across the United States, 53% of the learners, not just learners, but 53% of the survey respondents indicated that they used 50% or less of their education in their jobs. And 15% of them said that they were using none of their education in their current jobs. And so this means that people have to keep on upskilling and are looking for new skills as they go along. And so many of your sites cater to this kind of learner. So as one example, here's Yvonne. And Yvonne is at FUN. This is France Université Numérique, an open edX platform to upskill herself in her current role. So just many examples of this around the world. Another one is Harambe, which is a youth employment accelerator. And there again, they focus very much on enabling people to upskill in newer technologies, sustainable technologies, and so on. The second class of learner is multidisciplinary. Okay, when I was growing up, certainly you joined a discipline and you got a degree in a discipline. But today, learners are looking for both hard skills and soft skills, technical skills and soft skills, a real mix of skills. And a Burning Glass report has indicated that in they survey employers, employment postings and so on, and they're finding that one of every 3 skills requested by employers is a soft skill in their job postings. The other interesting data that the edX data science team produced for me was that 70% so if you look at learners who've taken several courses on edX, I believe the number was around 5 or more, 70% of learners enroll in a mix of STEM and non-STEM courses. So it's not that people are just learning, Python, advanced Python, programming, or analytics and so on, but really taking a mix of both STEM courses and non-STEM courses, languages and computer science, or analytics and humanities courses. So this is very, very common as well. So here's an example. So the ALU, for example, is again a website institution based in Africa using open edX, and they talk about enabling learners to become future-proof. And a big part of their message and the learning they provide is both combination of technical skills and also what they call future-proof skills that think of it as soft skills, critical thinking, and other kinds of skills that robots are less likely to take away in the near future. So again, very important, the mix of people looking for multidisciplinary skills, both hard skills and soft skills. The next learner is, we might call them fluid, where they want to commingle learning and learning and working at the same time. They're working and they're learning at the same time. So Harleen is one example. She was at Microsoft in India, and even while she was there, she completed the professional program in data science while she was working at Microsoft. And the results are pretty clear. We did a survey of learners who earned certificates with MicroMasters programs and with professional certificate programs. And as an example, 91% of them who completed MicroMasters programs, they indicated that they already had a career advancement because of it. It could be a pay raise, it could be a new job, it could be a promotion. And so people are working and earning new credentials at the same time. So one example site is the cognitive class.ai. It's an open edX site of IBM's. And they are, again, catering to employees and others that want to upskill while they work. The next category of learner is one I might call connected. And these learners are both very, very plugged into their societies and communities and their normal life, and they want to be learning new things at the same time. So Andrew is one example. He completed RIT's project management professional certificate program. And in his case, he's living life, and while he's living, he wanted to upskill, and while he's doing his normal things, I quite like the quote about, whenever he found time as part of his life to do learning, he would learn. And we will see this more and more in the future as people want to learn while they, while they have a, bouncing a baby on their lap or something, with a, learning at the same time. Another example is Moore, who's a learner on campus.il. This is the Israeli national platform using OpenEdX. And another example of a learner that wants to learn whenever they can. Again, connecting a connected learner where they're living life and they want to be learning at the same time. One category of learner is transformational, where the future of work is not going to be the same as what we've had in the past, and they want to completely transform themselves and pick new careers and new fields. And in fact, in a survey that we did, we found that 1/3 of Americans, this is a US survey, 1/3 of Americans have completely changed fields since starting their first job. Okay, 1/3. And so these are learners that want to transform themselves. And here's one example of such a learner. So Mandela is a nurse from Ghana. He completed the MicroMasters program in leadership from University of Queensland. And then he went on, he changed careers and went on to work for a Canadian NGO. I happened to be at UQ in Brisbane a few weeks ago, and actually turned out that after he finished that, he's now on campus wanting to complete a master's degree, actually. So he really, it's an example of a learner that is truly transformed themselves from what they were doing to a whole new career. Sam's another example. A BA in English. He took CS50 from Harvard, the computer science, one of the very popular CS courses on edX. And from working in a bookstore, he began to work in software development. Again, learners that are looking to completely transform their careers. So with that, again, let me leave you with this last vignette. The future learner is looking to upskill. They want to stay relevant. They are multidisciplinary, combine hard skills and soft skills. They are fluid. They want to connect. They want to learn while they work. They are connected. They want to learn while they live. Their normal life. Learning has to fold into life and become lifelong learners. And then there's the transformational learner that's looking to completely transform themselves and potentially change fields completely. So with that, let me stop. And I think there might be time for a question or two. Adam is nodding. OK, so we have time for a few questions. So who wants to go for the first question? Thank you.
Any questions? You just nailed it, no questions?
Tim, go ahead.
That was a great talk.
One sec,
Anant, that was a great talk. You indicated 3 general areas for edX at the beginning. What do you see as the balance? Are they going to stay in roughly equal proportion, or is the B2B going to really expand, or the B2? I mean, from where I'm sitting, I would expect the B2C to dominate, but I'd be interested in your notion of a few years on how those 3 broad areas are going to develop.
So, the question is, of the 3 strategic thrusts, B2C, B2B, and the lean OPM for degrees, how does edX see the balance between the 3? And you can look at many metrics. You can look at how many learners among the 3. You can look at revenues. So in terms of revenues today, B2C is certainly, way ahead, and B2B and the masters are just burgeoning categories. But there is multi 100% growth in the latter 2, both B2B and online master's degrees. So they will grow. If you ask me to guess, where will we be in, say, 3 to 5 years? I would say, from a revenue standpoint, all 3 will be equally important. If you were to ask me to guess, I don't know, 40, 40, 20, 30, 30, 30, somewhere there. In terms of strategy for edX and in terms of what's important, I think the key is that there's connections among all of them. There's a lot of synergy between all of them, and which is why I purposefully provided the example of the stackability, where the B2C, where the same content, the same platform is used to support micro-master's programs and the stack up for master's degrees. The development we do for, say, making courses and so on more engaging and so on for master's degrees or for more rigorous courses are also going to help micro-master's programs, which are B2C. So really, there's a lot of cross-pollination among the 3. So again, at this point, I cannot say what's going to be most important down the road. My gut is that way down into the future, I think the modular micro-credentials, I believe, will, if we can establish them as a critical brand, I believe that the modular credentials will ultimately hold sway. And my gut is that the more traditional degrees, the future learner, if you looked at the future learner, it's incredibly hard for some of these future learners to spend 1 or 2 years getting a full degree. So again, it's a sort of a waffly answer, but I think assume a third for now. Yes? Oh, okay. We'll go with Mo, and then we'll go. We'll go with Mo, and then we'll come to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anant, for a great explanation, and also how eloquently you broke into these 5 different categories. My question is, of course, in most cases, for most individuals, it's not going to be in one category. It's going to be some combination. Do you see any particular age, based on people's age, based on geographic area, based on their professions or whatever, that some areas might be more of an emphasis than the others?
The question is, how does age correlate with where the learners are? Frankly, I think all of these learners are, I would say, more in the lifelong learning category and reflect edX learners today, for example, where the median age of learners is 26, 27, 28, depending on the kind of program you're looking at. And so I would say that many of these are for sort of the lifelong learning, where people want to continue learning even after they have, while they're in college or after they've finished college. But among the ages, I think learning while you work, learning while you want to stay connected with your life, I think that's going to be true for everybody. I think transformational, my sense is, it could be at any age. So I would say it's hard for me to pinpoint any given age threshold for any of them. So I think it'll be true for learners of any age. Yes.
Hi. In 2010, I started a MOOC with the purpose of reducing the cost of college. So over 900 courses, 200 of the courses aligned themselves with credit by examination, APs, CLEPs, DSSTs, NYUs, and all the others. So currently, you can get your bachelor's in over 60 majors from several state universities regionally accredited, like MIT, but not MIT, in 6 months or longer, self-paced, for under $8,000 books and college fees. With this type of thing happening throughout the whole MOOC system, do you see the disruption of degrees themselves instead of micro-masters?
Absolutely. I see. I totally see transformation of degrees as well, where it's incredibly clear as we've conducted surveys and so on. The transformational learner, for instance, they're not going to go and get a new degree. They want to upskill and reskill with modular chunks as they go along. So I think there's transformation happening to degrees simply because of how people are looking to learn in the future, and certainly because of online learning. I think there's a real potential for transforming the undergraduate space as well. I think few people would argue that our system today is perfect. Okay, education system is clearly broken. That doesn't make any sense where you have $1.5 trillion, in student debt, where getting a bachelor's degree from a good college, costs you room and board costs you $250,000, and then you go get a $40,000 job. It just doesn't make any sense. And so I believe that the work that you're all doing, digital learning and so on, I'm absolutely confident that it is going to transform the undergraduate space as well through modular credentials that stack up, where multiple institutions participate and collaborate. I think it is going to happen.
I have the microphone. Hi.
Okay, go ahead.
I wonder if you see any type of significant distinction between professional type content compared to academic type content, such as might result in a master's degree versus a professional certificate, and if that has any implications for modularity and stackability.
A great question. Absolutely, there's quite a bit of difference between kind of the academic courses and what you might call professional or exec ed. I mean, I see a clear categorization. There are courses that are introductory courses more at the late high school or undergraduate level, and then there are more advanced courses that might, an academic in rigor and so on, like the MicroMasters programs with credit pathways. There's professional certificate programs that tend to be much shorter, but people are looking to get a quick skill. So let's say I already know C programming, and I want to go and learn Python, for example. Then getting a professional certificate in Python programming, for example, would make sense. So when you're looking for a quick skill, a professional certificate is good. And then we're seeing another important category, which is some topic for execs or for business. Now, those are very popular. So for example, we have a program from Columbia University, Data Science for Executives, where executives are looking not to understand how to go and do detailed programming, but of analytics and so on, but more what are the business implications of data science? How should I think about these things? And so there's very, very different kinds of courses, and they also have to be very short. So I think there's a clear, from a market standpoint, I think when you design courses, it's very important to think of who your customer is. The same course is not going to be taken by an executive, not going to be taken by a professional looking for a skill, not going to be taken by an undergraduate student or by a high schooler. I think you really have to think about your audience. And I think professional certificate programs, MicroMasters programs clearly enable that kind of differentiation in terms of the audience you are seeking. So I think I'm getting a strong signal. So let me stop here and not overstay my welcome. Thank you very much.